Here we are on the front of our Tiffin Phaeton 40IH. We're going to do a technical walkthrough, just like the technician would have given you on the date of delivery. We're going to go through the operations of this 40IH, give you a few tips and tricks along the way. If you want a deeper dive on some of these components and others, you can find that on our YouTube channel under the playlist Haps Helpful Hacks. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, follow. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments and I'm more than happy to answer. Let's start in the front right here. We have our generator right here in the front. We also have access to things like our washer fluid and stuff right there off to the right hand side. Your engine is going to be on the back. Of course, this is a diesel pusher. We have our AC lines right here, all that stuff. We have our generator. So this comes out by a little latch in this compartment right here. You'll notice up in the top right, we see a latch. We pull it, grab this on the bottom down there, and we can slide that compartment out. On our generator itself, we are going to have a 45 amp 2-pole breaker right there. That breaker is liable to trip if we overload that system with too many appliances, ACs, heating element stuff, anything of that nature. If you are running your generator and all of a sudden you don't have power, your breakers on the inside are good and your generator's still running, you want to come out, check this breaker right here and see if it's tripped. If so, turn off some of the items in your unit like your AC and stuff and then reset it and then go and turn those items back on, but you may want to reduce the amount of items that you have running. Down below that you have your start stop button. That start stop button is also a prime button. If you hold that down, you will begin to hear that fuel pump kick on and start priming your system. You want to go ahead and do that. It's going to take a little bit longer in colder weather. Hold that down. Also, if you go to that start preheat, it will also do it on its own before that generator actually starts. We're also going to have our hour meter off to the right hand side. That will go ahead and give you the time that that generator has been ran from the beginning. That's how we would keep up with maintenance on our generator. Of course, this is a diesel generator. It's going to pull off of that diesel tank we have on our unit. You have your coolant fill right there. If we open this up, we can gain access to the inside of our generator. We have our oil fill right there. We have our oil dipstick right there as well. And we can see our coolant tank up there at the top. Everything else is accessible from the bottom. We do have a latch down there to be able to do service for our air filter, oil filter, and the drain plug for our oil. You do want to check your owner's manual and follow the maintenance in there. It is a customer's responsibility to change the oil and keep everything maintained. All right, so on our driver's side, we have our side cameras mounted in our mirrors up here. When we kick our blinker on, it'll kick that left camera on or right camera on so we can see in our blind spots. We'll have our diesel fill right here for our diesel tanks. Down below in our first compartment right here, this is our main 12-volt master panel, I guess you could say, for all of our communications for Tiffin. So once we get into the touch screen on the inside, basically all that stuff's going to run through some here. We're going to have a quick connect airline fitting right here. It comes with a airline to be able to hook up. You can air up your tires, use it as a blower, whatever you want. It'll pull off of the air system on your RV. Up top right, we do have that pull handle to go ahead and open our generator compartment. All of our lights in our compartments are going to have 2 switches on them. We can kind of see a globe at the top. That is a motion sense light. If we turn it to the number 2 position, we can see it shut off. We waved our hand. It will go ahead and turn off when you close this compartment door. When you open it, it'll kick back on. You leave it in the number 1 position, that light will stay on all the time. All of your rims are aluminum. They have decorative caps over the lug nuts. These would have to be removed to actually access that lug nut and pull it off with the impact so they can change the tire. Just so you know, we have our slide out right here with our window awnings. We can pull that strap down, hook it right there, and we have a little more cover over our windows. These are hydraulic slides in the front on the driver and passenger side. In the rear, we have hydraulic slides back there. And then we're going to move back to our compartments. Our first compartment right here does have our 12-volt battery system for our house side. So that means that's controlling all of our 12 volts for the house portion, not our engine, okay? Same thing, another motion sense lighting. We have our batteries. These are sealed batteries, so we don't have to worry about maintaining the water levels on them. We just want to make sure that all of our connections are clean of corrosion or anything like that. So make sure you're doing that. We can pull that out to have better access by pulling our latch right there. It's on a little roller set. We'll have our ground bar down here. We have more 12-volt system right here. We're going to see on the other side kind of how some of that stuff works. Don't really want to deep dive into any of that. I wouldn't go into that unless you're on the phone with Tiffin or a technician. You're going to have your battery diagram right here to let you know if you ever pull your batteries out, change them, how to hook them all back up. Going to our next compartment. Full pass through on the next two compartments right here. These trays will slide out on each side. They will fully extend out and in on each side. Over to the left, we're going to have our master panel for our 12 volts with our fuses. So rather than the 15 and 20 amp fuses that you would generally see for 12 volts, these are just resettable. So if these ever trip, you're going to see the button push out, just push it down and reset it. Things like accent lights, wind sensors, cord reel, so on and so forth based on your camper setup. We're going to have our inverter switch over here to the right. That inverter is right there. That changes 12 volts to 110. So you're pulling from your battery system on the other side and changing it to 110 voltage for outlets, TVs, stuff like that. Anytime you want any of those items to work, you need to have this on. It does not have a bypass, so that has to be on. Battery disconnect is basically shutting off your 12-volt batteries on the other side of here from the rest of your unit. The only time you really want both of these items off is whenever you are storing your unit unplugged. Anytime you're plugged in using your unit or plugged in storing your unit or just driving down the road and you want access to some of the conveniences in your motorhome, you want to make sure that both of these are on. That way you have your 12 volts flowing to everything. On your inverter system right here, you're going to notice a little panel right here on the front, a little blinking light. It'll tell you a few things, but we do have a remote on the inside that's going to tell us a little bit more. We have an on-off button on here, same thing. We're going to have that stuff on the inside. We do have a RVC bridge module, which helps with communication. Once again, I wouldn't worry about too much of that stuff unless you were on the phone with Tiffin and they let you know, or a technician, and they're letting you know what you need to do in any of that stuff. One thing I will show you is over to the side. They didn't really put this one in a great spot, but we see another, hang on, let me get the camera on it, resettable switch right there. Just like these over here, little resettable push button. Most oftentimes, those inverters trip. You can hit that little black switch right there and reset that inverter, and everything will go back to working. Over to the right, we're going to have our Spider M1 access panel. Spider is what our system runs off of as far as communications for that touch panel. It's just another board in there. We don't really need to worry about that. We do have another light right here. We'll go to our next compartment. Once again, another pull-out tray right here. Not really anything to see. We can see our hydraulics right there for our slide out. We'll see wiring and everything running through our frame. All that. Our next compartment right here, a little louder, we hear our aqua hot running over there. We'll get some information on that. So in this compartment right here, we're going to have our cable or satellite hookups that will lead to the inside of the unit. We hook our park cable right here, that'll run to the inside, or we hook our satellite up, that'll run to our receiver on the inside, then out to our TV. GFCI protected outlet with a reset switch right here. So if this outlet isn't working, we are plugged into 110, want to hit that reset button so we can reestablish power to this. They trip due to over amperage, we plugged too much stuff into it, or because it got wet. You are going to have a solar input right here if we want to go ahead and put a solar panel out where maybe we're parked under trees or something, but you want to get some solar to your batteries, you can put an external panel on and plug that in right there. Have your water pump switch off and on. That light indicates that it's on. That water pump switch is going to pull water from our fresh tank and provide water to all of our fixtures. So if we're hooked to city water, we need to have that off. If we don't have a city water connection and we are dry camping, we are pulling water from our fresh tank over here, then we want that on so we can have water to our fixtures. This is where we would monitor that fresh tank as well as our gray and black tanks right there and our battery levels. So our fresh tank is that fresh, clean, potable water that we use if we're dry camping. Our gray tank is our water from our showers and sinks, and our black tank is our water from our toilet system, so our sewage, right? So that's where we can monitor all that out here. We can also monitor on the inside. We'll show you. We have our valve right here, either city water or tank fill. So when we're hooked to our city water connection, which is right here, so we have a water hose here, we hook it up to our faucet there at the campsite. If we want to fill that fresh tank to be able to use it when we are dry camping, we want to go ahead and turn that to this tank fill right here and begin to fill that tank, and then we can monitor it right here and see when that level is where we want it, 50%, 100%, however much water we want to put in our system. One thing we want to keep in mind is we don't want more water than we need, because of course it's added extra weight, and you don't want to leave it in there for a long time either. So to drain it out, you have this valve on this pipe right here. You want to open that up like it is right now, drain that fresh water out of that system if you're not using it, and that way that water doesn't become stagnant over time. Moving over to the right, you do have your shower connection right here for your outdoor shower faucet, hot and cold. Tank flush right here. That tank flush is going to be used to flush out that black tank when you're ready to dump. We'll get to that in a second. To the right, we have our filtration system for our unit. All your water is going to pass through here. You do have a filter in here. In order to take that off, you have this little piece right here. Put it on, untwist that. But one thing about it is you want to make sure that pressure is relieved off of this system. So make sure your city water connection is off and your water pump is off and all that. Turn a faucet on the inside, or just push this button right here and relieve pressure off of it. And then you can go ahead and unscrew this, change the filter out, screw it back on, and you're good to go. Up at the top, you're going to see a hot and cold water valve. Those are main shutoff valves for your plumbing system, all right? So if you have an issue on the interior with either your hot or cold, and you want to shut that off quickly, we can just go to these valves and shut that off on our system, and it'll kill the water to the inside on those components. Moving down back below our filtration system, we have our 12-volt water pump right here. You do have a little screen on this side of it. That screen needs to be cleaned out every now and again. Just unscrew it, pull the screen out, you can clean it off. You have a low point drains right here, red and blue line with valves on it. That is when you're preparing your unit for winterization. We want to drain our water out of our unit. That is where we're going to go to start doing that. We do have a video on winterization in our HAPS Helpful Hacks section that goes over a little bit more detail and information. You can also go to your Tiffin Owner's Manual. That'll give you more information on winterization for your unit. So let's move on to our dump station right here. We have our port right here where we'd hook up our sewer hose. We have our hole down there at the bottom. You can cover that hole up whenever in transit, anything like that. You can go ahead and pull it back off, stick your hose through there, hook it up. If you do have a sewage port at the campsite where you're at, you can go ahead and actually leave your gray water open all the time so you don't have to come out here and keep dumping it, all right? Showers, sinks, all that stuff, fill up your gray tank kind of fast. So if you want to leave it open all the time, you can go ahead and do that as long as you have a port hooked up there at the campsite. Our black tank, however, needs to stay closed all the time. Reason being is we're putting sewage, toilet paper, stuff like that in there, and if we drain the water out of that, all of that stuff will dry up and stick to our tank. So we want to make sure that valve is closed so we're collecting water in there, and also our chemicals can begin to help degrade some of those items in there and everything flushes out nicely. So when we are ready to dump, we want to hook up to our black tank flush right here, turn that water hose on, and then open this valve, and then everything will start to flush out of there. The tank flush actually goes to a jet on the other side of the tank, pushing all that debris, helping clean out that tank. When we're happy and satisfied, we can go ahead and close this valve. Want to add several gallons of water, we can do it through our tank flush or our toilet. Add several gallons of clean, fresh water to our tank, even when we store it, whatever the case may be. You never want to leave that open and empty. because then all the items that might still be stuck in there, little particulates and stuff like that, you want to make sure that stuff doesn't dry up and stick to things like our sensors, stuff like that. We go over more information on black tank flush in one of our Helpful Hacks videos. You can go through that on our Helpful Hacks playlist. We do have chemicals we need to put in there too. We'll drop that in on the toilet once we've filled this up with some water in that black tank. That'll help those chemicals start to dispose in that water and help treat that tank, keep it smelling nice. When we're done, disconnect our hose, we can put our cap back on, we're ready to hit the road. All right, so we're listening to all that racket. That's our AquaHot system working off of diesel. We come over here, we do have our technician's panel right here. It's a diagnostic panel, help you run through some stuff if you are having issues through this. I don't suggest going through it too much, once again, unless you're on the phone with Tiffin, AquaHot, or a technician. Main things you need to be worried about is our boiler antifreeze is at the appropriate level on here. We don't have any leaks on our system. We have our fuel filter over there to the side. We have our actual AquaHot right here, runs off of electric or diesel to go ahead and heat our water, provide heat for our furnace, stuff like that. So these things need to be maintained fairly regularly. We want to make sure we're following our owner's manual, getting the burner cleaned out, getting our fluids changed out, stuff like that, so this stays operational. Same thing on our rear rim, same as the front. We have those caps on the lug nuts to be able to access them. Our second to last compartment back here is going to have our DEF where we fill for our exhaust fluid, and then we're also going to have our little gauge right here, lets us know we're empty or full. We have our 50 amp power cord right here, 50 amp power cord plugged into the wall, and then we have our retract button right here. This is a power cord reel, and in order to retract it, we hold down retract, and that will wind up our hose. Our power will run into a transfer switch. That transfer switch will decide between shore power or generator power based on which one we are using. If you're plugged into shore power and you have generator running, generally it's going to take the generator power, and then if you shut that generator down, it'll kick over to shore power. All right, so it basically has the option between the two. If you don't have the generator running, it'll kick into shore power. So maybe a slight delay. You are going to have a surge guard on that transfer switch, so it may be 30 to 60 seconds before it actually kicks in, starts providing power to your unit. We'll see the transfer switch on the other side. We have a little storage in that rear compartment, access to our engine and stuff right there. On the back, we have more access to all our fluids on our engine. We have our coolant level. We have our transmission fluid right there on the right. We have our air filter gauge right there that'll let us know when our air filter needs to be changed out. It's pretty much all the access you're going to have to engine stuff right there. You have a transmission dipstick right there. We have an engine oil dipstick and an engine oil fill right there as well. Back 7-way, as well as our receiver hitch for towing behind us. Of course, we're going to have our backup camera up top. All right, so as far as our ladder goes, we don't have one on the back here, okay? But we do have our Lippard on-the-go system up there. If we scan that QR code right here, that will lead you to the telescopic ladder that's available to purchase. You hook it up right there, you gain access to your roof. That's really important because we need to make sure we're maintaining our sealants up there, as well as our sealants around all of our trims, our floor lines, our windows, stuff like that. That's the number one place where water is going to get in, is through sealant if it's not maintained properly. Manual is going to tell you every 60 to 90 days. I'm going to tell you every 60 to 90 days, make sure we are maintaining the sealant on our RV. Otherwise, you're going to have water leaks. The manufacturer is not going to step in if we have not maintained our sealant properly. I don't care if you keep it in a barn, keep it covered, keep it outside, whatever. Check that sealant, make sure you're keeping up with it. Right mirror right here, we have a camera up top right there. We have our entry door with our steps. Steps are 12-volt powered steps, a little motor on them. When we are parked at the campground, we can actually turn that step motor off with that switch right there, and our steps will go ahead and stay out so we don't have to wait for them to keep coming in and out whenever we are camping. We do have an override on our ignition. When we turn that ignition on, those steps should automatically come up. If we want them to run in and out, we just turn that step switch back on. When we close our door, those steps will come in and out. It knows the door is shut by a little magnet. On this particular system, we have a knob here, a knob here. When that door closes, it connects the system and those steps go in and out. So generally, if you have an issue with it, it's mainly a motor problem or a 12-volt problem. On this particular system with the magnets, not too often an issue right there. Some of them have like the magnets on the doors or something like that, but on this high-end unit, they use a little bit better system. All right, so we have our touch panel right here by our door. Let's go over information on that right now. All right, so from the factory, okay, we slide that up. Our code is gonna be 3377. Automatically pop that open. We can change that. We'll go over that in a bit. On the inside, from the outside, we can turn on our porch lights, our door lights, road lights. We can do our light master off and on, which will actually turn our lights off and on the interior as well. We can extend our door awning, which is above our door. We have our entry door lock, bay lock, all that stuff right there. We can go ahead and lock our screen, close that off, open it. Also, that is a, let me go back. That is a doorbell right there, okay? Go ahead and hold that down. That's doorbell to the interior. All right, you're also gonna have security where you can arm your unit with a security system. There's a disclaimer letting you know that if your entry door is open, whenever you arm it, that system is going to go off. We're gonna arm our system like that in order to lock our screen. Okay, we get back to our camper, we put in our code, and now we can go back and disarm that system. Also on here, we can see what our tank levels are, fresh, gray, and black. We also have our house battery levels and our chassis battery levels on here as well. We can go into settings, we can clean this screen. If we're going to clean mode, that will disable this screen for 15 or 30 seconds. We can wipe it down, clean it. We can also change the theme. We can brighten up that screen or darken it, whichever one we prefer. Our screen lockout after 1 minute, or we can change it to 2 to 5, or whatever we want. And we can also adjust our screen brightness right there. All right, moving on. We do have another fill option on this side for our diesel tank. All that goes into the same tank on our unit. We have our hydraulics right here. So this is gonna operate our leveling system, our slide outs, all that stuff. That's where all these hoses go to. On here, we do have that handle at the bottom. We can go ahead and pull up, and we see our reservoir tank back there. Now, if we ever want to add hydraulic fluid to this because that system is low for whatever reason, we need to make sure that all of our jacks are retracted and all of our slide outs are retracted. If you fill this tank and any of those items is open, whenever they close, it's putting fluid back into that tank and it will overfill it and make a big old mess, okay? So keep that in mind. You definitely don't want to overfill that system. It will make a huge mess. In here, we do have a 110 outlet, a couple of 110 outlets, and then also 12-volt cigarette lighter for any port for any of that, if you need 12 volts for that reason. And then we're also going to have our two controllers for our awnings right here at the bottom that are plugged in there, our Girard awnings. Moving to the next, we have our two pass-through bays. Once again, on this side, like I said, these racks come out on this side as well on both ends. Motion lighting on both of them as well. Have our extra tiles, our vacuum system. Let's talk about our vacuum system here, okay? We have our IntelliVac, our road vac system right here. Come on, light. We have on and off. If we kick it on, obviously that is our vacuum system. We'll go ahead and take our hose right here, hook that up. We can go ahead and hook our hose right here, kick that system on, and we can vacuum out our compartments. We're also going to have some ports on the inside that will allow us to hook this hose up and vacuum on the inside. All of that is going to end up in a bag inside here. We slide this little clip on the right-hand side, pull that open. A little bag will be attached right here. Pull that bag out, change it out once it gets full. When you're ready to put it back, you attach that bag onto that little nozzle on the back of this cover, slide it in on the left first, then lock it in on the right. Moving on over, we have our fresh tank system, our tanks, all that stuff. This is access to be able to fill that tank with just a water hose without having to turn the valve on the other side. If you're hooked to city water connection, you just want to run a hose over here, put it in here and gravity fill it. You can do that too. If you do happen to overfill your tank, it's okay. You do have an overflow hose on here. It'll just spill over onto the ground, no worries. Once again, that's all our tanks right there. All our sensors are on this side. This is our transfer switch right here, okay? What we were talking about with our shore power. Our shore power comes over here. Our shore power comes over on one, and our generator power comes over on one, and then we have our output to our breaker panel on the inside. Now on that shore guard system, remember I was telling you that this is a surge guard system. We have our lights up here that indicate if there's a problem with our system, and it'll let you know. And of course you'll know because you don't have any power on the inside of your unit. This is also monitorable on the inside on our touch panel that we'll look at in a little while. Second to last compartment gives us our chassis batteries, okay? Sealed batteries, once again, we don't need to maintain these. We just need to make sure they stay charged up, make sure our connections are good everywhere in here, nothing's corroded or anything like that. You will have a large bus fuse right here, usually a 250 amp fuse. You can pull that little rubber boot off of there, gain access to it. If your engine won't start, you don't have 12 volts right here on this bar right there, then more than likely that fuse is bad. You know how to use a meter or a test light, you can easily diagnose that. Just check both sides of that fuse. If you have 12 volts on one side, not the other, that fuse is bad. We have our chassis disconnect, works just like our other ones. If we store our unit unplugged, want to turn that off. Any other time, you pretty much want it on. Moving on, a little bit of storage there, more access to more engine components, stuff like that on that little panel right there. We'd see our screws on it. Then we have our chassis fuses right here for our unit. These are fuses for that Eaton system. All right, we got that cover off. We can see our fuses there. We see on the back of the cover, we have a little diagram. We see different items for our chassis. We see our tow lights. We have some spares in there, all that different kind of stuff. Mainly ignition, ECM kind of things. And then once again, our tow lights. So if we have any issues with our tow lights, we want to come look on here on that board and see if any of these fuses are blown. That would be why our 7-way lights aren't working. I'm gonna go ahead and kick that back on right there. And then in our last compartment, we can see a little storage right here. And we also have our engine block heater, okay? So our engine block heater on this plug, pull that cover off. Anybody with that cold weather knows what that is. We can actually plug that in right there. If we're plugged into our 50 amp service, we can use our block heater to warm up the block on our engine before we crank it up in that cold weather. Of course, it does come with some warnings on there. We do need to abide by whenever we're using that block meter as far as how long it would take to get our block up to temperature. All right, so talked about our block heater, all our compartments. We do have window awning right here. We can hook to that strap. Do have access to the back of our refrigerator right here. Open that compartment. You can turn off and on that water line right there for our refrigerator. We also have access to our 110 plug for it as well. Close that back up. And then we're also going to have our outdoor TV out here. Open that up with our sound bar and everything like that for outdoor entertainment. Let's go ahead and open our awnings and talk a little bit about those. All right, so to open up our awnings, we have our little Girard remote right here in this cabinet. We'll pull that out. So to activate our remote, we go ahead, turn it on. We can hit any button on here. We want to unlock it. If you just hit any button that says L, more than likely it's locked. Hit that unlock button right there and we have different channels. All right, so we'll start with channel 1. We'll hit out and we can see our awning begins to come out. We can go to channel 2, say out, and our rear awning begins to come out. If we want to stop these awnings at any point, we can just hit that stop. Want to run them back in, we can hit that in button. For our lights, hit that light button right there. On channel 2, we can go to channel 1, hit our light on this one. and now our awning lights are on. If we want both of our awnings to come out or in at the same time, or control lights on both of our awnings at the same time, that will be on channel 0. Okay, we can turn both of our lights, and then we can also hit the in button, and both of our awnings will go in. Same thing, we want to stop them, we can hit stop, and both of them will stop as well. All right, our door awning is only in and out through our touch panel like we showed you earlier. Our awnings are equipped, with the exception of our door awning, with wind sensors. If the wind kicks up a little bit too much, those awnings will automatically come in, protect themselves, and go in. Now, if you get a hurricane force wind, anything like that, it's not going to go in time. So you need to watch your weather, make sure everything looks good, especially if you're leaving your campsite, roll those awnings in. It is also not made for heavy rains, good for light rains and stuff, but heavy rains, you want to go ahead and roll them in so you don't have any issues with that awning collapsing on you. When we're ready to do that, we just hit that in button on there. All of them will roll in. All right, so we're going to step inside our unit. Directly to the left, we have a touch panel that pretty much mimics our outside panel, but we do have a few more things on it, and things are slightly different. All right, so we have our entry, our ceiling, our door lights, porch lights, and then also we have our security. So if we're inside our unit, we close our door, we can arm our security system from here. We have extend and retract that door awning, entry door lock, bay door locks, light master off and on. We can see that a little bit better from the inside now, what that does. Our backlight shuts it off. And we go into our lights right here. Now we get a little more specific: entry, ceiling, front courtesy, so on and so forth. We'll also see these up and down arrows. If we hold this down for a couple seconds, this will actually dim our lighting. And then if we keep holding it down, it'll actually bring it back up and make it brighter. Another light master off and on. We go to our exterior lights right there. And then we also have our rear lights for our bedroom, ceiling fan, bath, so on and so forth. Next is going to be our generator system. Our generator system also has energy management tab, all that. We're going to deep dive into that a little bit more on our bigger panel. For now, just know you can start and stop your generator. You can do your auto gen start, all that stuff from right here. And then we can also look at our energy management as far as our 50 amp service, our line 1 and line 2. That's two 110 lines going into our unit. What is running off of those lines. Our next one is going to be our AC system. We can go our rear, mid, and front AC. We can control all of that right here. We can also control our heated floors from right here, our AquaHot system from right here. And once again, all this will be on the bigger panel. We'll go a deeper dive with all that when we get in the hallway. We've got our tanks, our water pump, our diesel, electric for our AquaHot. We can control our ceiling fans, the vent fans that go up and down. And then we have our settings with our screen settings where we can change all that stuff back and forth there. And then this would also be the location of the panel if they ever change it out. This one's named entry, change your brightness, all that kind of stuff, all right? So then we have another touchscreen right here, pretty much the same stuff, okay? You have lights, just different controls. You're gonna find a lot of redundancy all throughout your unit with multiple screens throughout everywhere. And once again, we'll take a deeper dive into some of that when we get into the hallway. All right, let's hop over to the driver's seat right here. On the driver seat, of course, we're on a Freightliner chassis. Let's go ahead and turn our ignition on, and we'll see our screen pop up up front. Let's let that boot up. All right, our screen, everything's up. Let's go ahead and crank it. All right, our screen is up and running. Generally, if your unit's been sitting for a minute, you're gonna get a low air alarm. It means that your air pressure is low. These are your two air tanks right here. They're gonna air up. If it is down to like really low and you wanna get it cranked up a little faster, you can hit set and then cruise up here. And this will increase your RPMs. We can see that RPM flashing down there by our tanks. Whenever we hit that, increases our RPMs a little bit, just gets those tanks filled up a little bit faster. If you want to disengage that, just hit the brakes and your RPMs will drop back down, okay? We're also going to notice like all our air pressures and everything on this screen right here. We can actually change all that thumbing through our options here. We can go to home. We can see our gauges. Zoom in a little bit. Go through gauges, fuel economy, all that kind of stuff is fairly self-explanatory. Let's see, anything in particular? We have our tire pressure settings. We can go through here, change our dash brightness, TPMS sensors. Main things that I'm going to focus on here is we have a diagnostics tab, okay? We can go through, and all I'm doing is scrolling through. You hit OK whenever you get to that one. And then we can go through and see if we have any faults. We can hit that fault, and it's going to give us a list of stuff. So I tell you that mainly because if you're on the phone with Tiffin or anything, you want to know how to get to it. That's where you're going to want to go. You can hit that back button right there to go ahead and get out. We can go to internal diagnostics, transmission diagnostics, system information, all that stuff. Once again, if you're on the phone with Tiffin, you can go ahead and give them that information right away, or a technician. I'll also touch on road watch. We hit road watch, we have cruise control, we hit OK again. And what this does is, this is adaptive cruising, okay? Like what you would have on your car nowadays. We can either get really close to a car, a little further away, or the most distance. And basically, once your cruise control is set, you start to approach a vehicle. Once it gets to that distance, your vehicle will slow down to the same pace that they're going. If you want to get closer before it does that, then go ahead and just hit OK on this one, and it'll check mark that one. Want to move around, just scroll down and hit the next one. Okay, everything else is self-explanatory, customizable as far as what gauges you want on here, and if you want to kind of change the display brightness, all that kind of stuff, that's up to you. You can play around with that. Over to the left, we have our leveling system. We'll go over a little information on that. The only thing that'll be different in the next video that's shown is that this unit does have an air dump feature. So your airbags are going to drop whenever you hit auto level. Your airbags will drop, and then your landing gears will begin to drop down and level out your unit. Everything else will operate just the same as the video that's about to be shown. All right, so our electronic leveling, our engine is going to have to be running our emergency brake on. We go ahead and kick that system on. We're going to notice our voltage up here. Voltage is very important. The system itself, our pump system, is going to be pulling off our house batteries, and we want to make sure that that voltage is always at a proper voltage before we kick it on. Otherwise, this system will shut down. So we're there at the campsite, ready to hook up everything. Want to go into auto level right off the bat. We hold down that auto level button, and that system will begin to extend those jacks and auto level your system. Now during this process, you don't want to be moving around inside your unit, jumping around, all that stuff, because it can throw off that sensor on there and your unit may not level properly. So try to stay still while this process is being active. So during this process, we're going to notice like the little red light might pop up at different corners of our system. That's letting us know what area is low on our unit. So if we were doing this manually, we could use this to identify which side of our unit is not at the correct height. So then we would click on that side, those rear jacks would extend up, and then eventually that light should disappear, and our green light right here in the middle is going to let us know that it is level. Now, of course, our auto level process is doing that on its own. It's the easiest way to go ahead and level out our unit. So once it's done, it'll let us know everything is a success, and this system will go back to our regular main menu. Now we have a couple of other options on here. We'll go into our manual level real quick just to run you through that. If we hit enter on that, this is going to let us know where our level is. Okay, so our objective is 0 plus or minus a couple of points on there. And so if we want to go into manual mode because our auto level isn't working, or we want to tweak it a little bit, hit enter, go in our manual, we hold this down for a second, and it's going to jump up on that front end a little bit, and that system will activate those jacks. Same thing in the rear. But we start to notice we have a little blinking light right here. That means that left side is low, just like I was talking about during that auto level. Hold that down for a second, it'll kick those left jacks, and we're just going to bump it until that goes away and our green light comes on, And according to this, we're level and ready to go. We can scroll down a little bit more. Now initially, whenever you scroll down, you're going to hit that manual, that auto retract right there, okay? Auto retract, hit enter to begin, and that system will begin to automatically retract those jacks. That's what we would push whenever we're ready to hit the road. Also to mention in that manual mode is if we want to retract any of these jacks because we maybe overshot a little bit, hold down that retract button until that light kicks up, and then we can hold down this button and it will retract that area. Whenever we want to go back to extending, push it one more time, then we can go back to extending those jacks. So once everything's done, it'll let you know the jacks are up, you're ready to roll, and you put it in drive and hit the road. We do have a deeper dive on this system on there that goes over how to do the 0 point. So if your leveling isn't quite right, it says it's level, but your unit obviously isn't level, you may need to reset your 0 point. So we'll talk about that in one of our other videos in the helpful hacks section. You can go check it out there. All right, so that's everything on our leveling. We move on, we have our air horn. We can turn that off or on. We have automatic traction control override. We have our heated mirrors right here. We have our controls for our mirrors right here. We have a USB port here and USB-C. Air brakes, because your unit does have air brakes obviously. To disengage, we push our brake down, we push that in, and that will disengage our brakes. Have our engine preheat, auxiliary start. Auxiliary start is basically a set of jumper cables that jumps your house batteries to your chassis batteries. So if your engine is dead and won't start, but your house batteries are charged up, hold down this button, hold it down for about 30 seconds, let that juice get to those chassis batteries, and then try to crank it up. It can also work in reverse. If your chassis batteries are good, you have your engine running, hold it down and try to start your generator. And then once your generator starts, you're still gonna have to hold it down for probably about 60 seconds to the transfer and charging switch kick in and that converter system actually starts charging. We have our lights, we have on auto, on, off, park lights, all that stuff. We have our, let's go over our dash system right here, blinkers, our windshield wipers, all that. Main thing I want to get to is our transmission. All right, so on this we have drive, neutral, and reverse. Hold our brake down, we can put it in drive. If we slide this down and hold it for just a second like this, okay, we're gonna see right there on our RPM screen, it's gonna change modes. So we can go to economy mode, or we can go to performance mode, okay? And then we also have a manual mode. Okay, I know I'm zoomed in, zoom out, right? We have a manual mode. So we can actually push our stick this way and this way. So this way is up, this way is down to shift, all right? So now we'll see on there, downshift, upshift, okay? I'm pulling the stick to me. We can actually shift and control which gears we're in, depending on if we are climbing up a mountain or anything like that. We can go ahead and control those gears, go to a lower gear. We're also gonna have our engine brake on here. We can control that, kind of like a blinker. We have low, medium, high, and you'll see that pop up once again on your dash, top left corner, whatever that is currently set at, okay? All right, moving back over to the rest of the stuff on our dash. We have a USB port behind this plug right here. We open that up, that'll actually lead into our radio, so we have CarPlay, anything like that. Plug that in, plug our iPhone into that, and everything will transfer over to our radio. Now, as for our radio, we'll go through this setup real quick. All right, so on our radio, we hit our home button. That'll bring us to this main screen. We do have navigation. Most everybody uses Apple for all that stuff nowadays, or your Android maps. We have our radio option. We click radio. We have all that. Go back to home. If we hit that bottom left button right there, that'll bring us to our apps. Okay, we have Sirius XM radio, and then we also have Bluetooth. That's the main thing everybody wants to know, is how do I hook my Bluetooth up on my phone? Well, if we hit that little phone button at the bottom, then we have our settings right here. Click on that. We have Bluetooth, and then we want to go ahead and search for that, okay? So what we want to do is search for DNX 775 RVS, or whatever the device name is. Find that on the Bluetooth settings on your phone. If it asks for a pin, it's going to be 000. Your Bluetooth will be on. If you can't find it, just turn it off and then turn it back on, and then it should show up on your phone. Once that's done, your phone's connected. You can have Bluetooth on your radio whenever you're traveling. Make phone calls. We're also going to have Spotify. We scan over. We have Pandora already on here. We have options for CD. If we want to go ahead and do that, we hit this button right here. We hit disc eject. We'll slide down. We actually have that spot for the CD. We can hit that button. And then we can also adjust how we want our screen from there as well. If we want it at a different angle, we hit that eject button and we can choose however we want that screen to angle, okay? Back out of that, we have USB, AVN, SD card, all that stuff. We're going to adjust our audio through all that. We're not going to get into too much of that stuff. Just want to show you the basic things that you're going to be using every day. And that's pretty much it as far as the radio is concerned. All right. Moving over, we do have our backup camera system, our side camera systems. Whenever we hit our blinker, it's going to automatically go over to that side. When we put it in reverse, it will go into reverse. All right, back into neutral. Now we have the option where we can change this screen to whatever we want it to. If we want to change it to just channel 1, we can do that, channel 2. Whatever camera you want, you can go ahead and swap and just have that camera, or you can hit the mode button and it'll give you all 4 of them, whatever your preference is. Over here we have our step cover. We hit that step cover right there. That cover will come out. That way your passenger can rest their feet. If you have like that whenever you're camping, whatever you want, little electric cover. We have our driver fan, passenger fan. That's going to be your fans up in the corners that control that. We also have our solar shade right here. That's going to be more of a day shade, kind of help block out the sun a little bit. And that is automatic. One push button and it will go up. I have our night shade right there. We can run that down and that will go ahead and give us privacy at night. One push button, that'll go up. Same thing. Generator start stop right here, just like your outside one. You're going to want to prime it up before you crank it, or hold down that start button, it'll automatically prime. Map light is our light right above us. Dock lights are outside. We also have our radio camera option right here. If you're camping and you want all this stuff on and use it kind of like a security system, then you want to turn it on right here. If you don't want all that on, flip that switch off, everything will turn off. Basic AC controls right there, little storage underneath. All right, so before we move on to the rest of our unit real quick, while we're up here, we're going to go ahead and run our slides out. In order to run our slides out, we have to have our engine on. Want to make sure that our seat is positioned up enough to where we're not going to hit anything when we run that slide out. That is why Tiffin puts these little components right here on the side. We can actually pull them off if we want. If we want to go outside because we're close to a tree, we want to keep an eye on it, we can go outside and use this as an actual remote. We'll hit and hold down extend. Once again, these are hydraulic slide outs. Go ahead and run out, and we'll do the same thing on the passenger side. All right, on the back of these are wireless. You'll have your battery on the back of these, 2032 I think is what they are, that you can replace if your fobs ever go out. We're also going to show you in our video how to sync those if the battery goes out and it's not syncing with your system. Now we also have our rear slides. We're going to skip ahead over here, go to our slide out option, and we're going to extend those out. Once again, those are hydraulic slides as well on this one, and same thing over here. All right, so that's the last thing we need our ignition on for, so we can go ahead and cut that off. Our seats actually turn around too. What we would have to do is pull this lever right here. That will now release our chair. We can spin it around. Of course, we're working around our steering wheel. We use our adjustments right here to move back and forth to be able to get that around that steering wheel. To put it back into place, we spin it around until it is locked in. Give it a good shake, make sure we're locked in, and we're good to go. Let's talk about some of the stuff in our cabinets right above our driver. We have our antenna booster right here. That antenna booster is for if you are searching for antenna channels on your TV right there. You want that antenna boost on, so that means that little green light right there needs to be on. If you're hooked to part cable, you're scanning for channels, you want that light off. This is our little awning remote right there. You can leave it there, you can take it out and use it outside, whatever you wish right there. In our next compartment, we're going to have that Starlink system already in our unit. And we want to go over that in our owner's manual. There's some information about how to log in and activate all that stuff. We'll make a separate video for that. We're not going to tie too deep into that today. 110 outlet, we have our TV. This compartment right here, 110 outlet. This 110 outlet is for our TV, okay? If we're traveling down the road and our TV's not working, it's probably because it's plugged into that one right there. If we want to watch it while we're traveling, then maybe just move it, right? Spider control system right here. This is for all of your screens and everything else. All that stuff works off of Spider. This can actually be upgraded if you don't have one to a Bluetooth option to where you can download the Mirror app and you can actually control some of that stuff if your unit isn't already equipped with the Bluetooth option. That is upgradable. You can control some of this stuff from your phone. More storage right there. All soft close cabinets. That is access to wiring for your awning and everything right there behind that. We'll move on. We have our TV lift right here. How do we operate our TV lift? Well, we have another little touch screen right over here on the side. It's going to give you more light options. Fan option for the exhaust fan in the kitchen. We go to settings and we have our TV lift, okay? So we're going to see these little screens all over the place, and they're generally going to operate something in the general vicinity of where they are. They're all going to have those same settings for clean mode, and they're just a different variation of your lights and stuff. You're going to have another option for your TV lift sitting in your recliner. Over there to the side, you'll have that button right there. It's going to work just like your slide out ones. You can go ahead and disconnect it if you want. Same thing, wireless battery system, and you can go ahead and control that TV lift from there. When you put it back, it just snaps in. Your recliners all have electric reclining USB. That bed right there will fold out into a sofa bed. We have our booth system with our storage underneath. Not a whole lot to go over with all of that stuff. Our table is fixed, so it doesn't drop down into a bed, unfortunately. We have our refrigerator. Our refrigerator is a 110 unit. It does have safety latches on it. I do suggest you use that while you're traveling down the road so all your stuff doesn't end up on the ground. You do have that water system. The valve is on the back, controllable by that compartment outside, accessible, I should say. All right, and one important thing about our refrigerator and our freezer is if we ever store our unit, we have everything shut off, we need to make sure we're emptying out that ice tray right there. Go ahead and clean out and wipe down our fridge and freezer, let it defrost, get all the water out of it and air this thing out. Reduces opportunity for mold and mildew and reduces opportunity for water to leak out into your slide out, into your RV, anything like that, and damage any of the wood components around it or your RV, because manufacturers aren't going to cover improper storage of your unit. So make sure you're doing that. Over here, we're going to have our true induction cooktop right here. So this is only going to work with the proper pots and pans on your unit. They come with your unit. You kick them on. Put that pot on here. I can have it on high. My hand's not going to burn, okay? We go ahead, once your pot's on here, you can adjust your temperature, then it will activate. We can lock that temperature. We can set a timer for it, all that stuff from here. When it shut it off, we just hit that button and it shuts off. Microwave convection oven right here. We also have our hood vent fan right here for when we're cooking, we can exhaust air out. We're also down here going to have our dishwasher. Basic instructions on the dishwasher are, we go ahead, choose which mode we want right here, and then we can go ahead and choose if we want extra dry, quick, sanitize, all that stuff on here, and then we just hit play, and we close it, it locks, and it begins to run. Very, very simple system, no need to overthink it. And here we're also going to have, oh, real quick, safety stuff. We have our smoke detector up top. It's going to be old school, right? Not much advancements on that. Our smoke detector does have 9-volt battery on there. Whenever the daylight saving comes around, you might want to go ahead and check and make sure that system is still working and replace the battery if necessary. Okay, those are good for 10 years, by the way. While we're talking about safety, we're going to talk about our COLP detector down here at the bottom. This is hardwired into your 12-volt system. We can go ahead and test it by holding down that button. That'll test the audible alarm. If we want to test the actual CO detector, we can take a lighter, don't light it, just hold the button down and it should kick this on within 30 to 60 seconds. And that lets you know that system is working. Same thing, but this one is 5 years on it and it expires. We can see a little date printed on there. When that date rolls around, you want to get that changed out to make sure that you are keeping your family safe. Once again, hardwired into your 12-volt system, it's going to be on all the time. Down below that, we have an Entegra, that vacuum cleaner system. You can hook your hose there, and you can go ahead and vacuum. If you are sweeping, you want to sweep everything over here, kick that button right there, sweep it in there, and it'll vacuum it all up into our vacuum cleaner down in our storage bay. Half bath with our toilet. And we also have those vents up there, decorative covers, can't really see them, but those vents are all controlled by what? Our touch screens, because of course we do have another one in here. Controls our vent fans, our bath lights, so on and so forth in here. We'll go over toilet information when we hit the back bathroom. Do have another touch screen over here on the side, same thing. Control different aspects of your unit. All right, before I get too far back, one thing I want to show in the storage compartment right here. This is the Tiffin manual. You want to keep this with you. It has everything. They do a great job at organizing it. If I didn't cover in my video, it can be found right here. Okay. Otherwise, you want a visionary, go search for it on our YouTube channel. You can't see your AC vents from the inside. That's because they are all mounted on the outside. On your roof line, ducted units, you'll see these screens right here in these vents. That's your return air. That's where your air is going in to the AC, it's getting cooled off and it's coming out of the vents right here. Now these screens do need to be cleaned every now and again. If you start getting them, seeing them getting dirty, dusty, you have pets, stuff like that, you want to go ahead and pull those screens out and you want to clean them. You can do that, taking that vent, popping it down, pulling that out. To put it back, put it up there, snap it back in. These vents right here, catch the edge of it just right, pull them out, they're magnetic, pull that screen off of there, clean it, replace it, whatever you want, stick it back in there, okay? If we don't clean those, it is going to restrict air to our AC and it is not going to work properly. We are now going to go over our touchscreen panel on our RV. Our next video is going to go over your touchscreen system. It will vary slightly from yours as far as your slide out floor plan and everything, but everything else will pretty well be the same. All right, now we are at kind of the brains of our system, our touchscreen right here in the hallway. Get your popcorn because this one's kind of long, okay? So up top, we're going to see our house and chassis batteries. This is our current voltage. We're going to see a percentage mark up here. That is our true state for our batteries. We'll touch on a little bit more information on that in a little while. But basically, you have your house, chassis batteries, quick cheat to know what the current state of those batteries are. Now, down below that, another quick cheat sheet that you'll see for your AC systems as well as your floor heat levels. If we want to go ahead and initiate that, we can go ahead and click on our floor right here. It's going to bring up our rear and our front and what we want those heats to be at. Now that adjusts the heat. If we want to actually turn them on, we click them on and they'll be in standby mode and eventually turn on. It's going to take a second for that system to get going, and then it's also going to take a little bit of time for those floors to heat up. So don't expect instant. If you want those floors to be warm in the evening time, you want to kick them on in the afternoon or the night before. If you want them warm in the morning, just leave them running. Going back to that home screen, we have our front and rear ACs. We'll touch on that a little bit more when we get to that AC column right there. Let's kick those back off. Go back to that home screen. A lot of this stuff is just kind of quick cheats. We'll have access to a lot of it down at the bottom, so we'll just go through it. On our fresh gray and black tanks, that's only viewable right here, as well as that little screen there in the front by our door. It's going to tell us what those current levels for all those items are. We have our AquaHot system, quick initiate. If we want to run off a diesel, then we go ahead and click our flame right there and that system will kick on. If we want it to run off of electric or both, we can click both of them on. Of course, we will have to have the generator running or be plugged into shore power for electric to be initiated. Our diesel will run regardless as long as we have enough fuel in our system. Want to turn them off, just go ahead and click that off button. Our water pump we talked about outside. Our water pump's going to pull from our fresh tank and supply water to our fixtures if we don't have a source there at the campground. Let's jump back to our AquaHot real quick. We hit that settings button right there on the AquaHot. This is a screen that is kind of new to the system. It lets you run diagnostics on your unit. So right now system status is standby because we don't have anything active. If we want to run diagnostics, we can go ahead and do that while our unit is running, and it'll give you the current voltage, burner activity, so on and so forth for all of our stuff, and it'll let you know if anything has had any faults. We can go into our fault screen. This is great detail for if we are in contact with AquaHot or a technician on, hey, what might be wrong with my system. So this is great troubleshooting stuff to help solve issues if you have a problem on the road. Of course, AquaHot gives you their callback information right there to be able to contact them, or you can go to aquahot.com for more fault information there. You can go into the test mode, but generally that's a technician thing. That's something that if you're on the phone with them or whatever, they would go ahead and have you run through that system. To get back, we can go ahead and go back, and that'll bring us back to our home screen or whatever screen we were on. Once again, a few little cheat sheets right there for our lights on our unit. If we want to go ahead and turn our lights off and on, our backlight is going to be for the backlight of this screen right here. You can kick them back on there. We're also going to have our generator set up right here. We have our start for our AGS system. So now is where we'll talk about the AGS. We were talking about that up in our Magnum system. This is a much easier way to set that system up. So AGS is going to give you a warning right off the bat saying that that system will start automatically and run for however long you have it set up. So if you have it set up in your barn and that AGS system kicks on, you're going to fill up that barn with carbon dioxide. So it's letting you know, hey, the area needs to be well ventilated in order to operate this. And your clock needs to be set correctly too, otherwise that quiet time is not going to work properly. So we want to go ahead and enable our AGS, and we can do that by holding that down for 3 seconds. So that enables that AGS system. To turn it back off, we'll just hit that button right there again, and that will turn it off. We have our stop for our generator, so if it's running, we hold that down and our generator will stop. If we want to start it, we just push that button right there for a second. It's going to initiate and automatically preheat and prep that system to get it started on its own. We're going to have the generator hours right here at the bottom, and we're going to touch a little bit more on that AGS once we get to our electrical screen right here. Our next screen is going to be our lights. All of our lights and stuff are accessible through there. That is going to be our master on-off switch right there for all of our interior lights. Our exterior lights it does not do. Want to go ahead and kick those off or on immediately, we can hit that master button. When we get into our electrical right here, up top we have our solar. You do have solar panels up there. We talked about our Go Power controller there in that side compartment. Our mode right now is no charging because of course we're in a shop, there's nothing to charge, right? But our system is enabled. If we want to enable it or disable it, we can go ahead and hit that button right there, enable and disable. We go in our settings screens, it's going to give you all your charging stats, your charging history. If we want to clear that history and reset it, we can hit that button there. If we want to go a little further and go into our more charging settings, we can change our battery type system. So if you've changed your batteries to lithium or anything like that, we can go in there and change that stuff in here. And we want to do that so our system knows better what we're charging and how to charge it. Pretty much from the factory, everything is going to be set properly already with your amp hours, your type of batteries, and everything else in here. So unless you change all that stuff, there really shouldn't be a whole lot you need to worry about in here. We can go back. Once again, it'll give you your current charge rate and everything else from that solar when it is active. Here we have our info for our charging system. So this is that true state we were talking about. I hit the settings button right there at the top right. It's going to bring you to that screen right here. So true state is going to tell you a lot more information now about the current state of your batteries. We can go ahead and reset all that information by holding down that reset. Once again, we want to change our battery size, everything else, if we ever change our batteries. So an easier way to put this for true state is info right here. This is the simplest screen. It's telling you that your batteries at their current state at 97% has 14 hours and 20 minutes based on what you're currently running. So it lets you know how long your batteries are going to last for the current state that you're running. So if you're working off of inverter mode and you're running your refrigerator and stuff like that, it's going to tell you, hey, you only have 14 hours. Right now, of course, we're plugged in. Our system is charging. Everything is good. We have 13.3 volts, so on. But if we were to unplug our system, this is going to drop as far as our voltage, and our hour time is going to slowly decrease. So that helps us gauge better on how much longer our batteries are going to last. So if you have your AGS system on, it's going to kick in when our battery voltage gets to a certain point, or if we want to trigger our AC systems. We'll touch a little bit more on that here in a minute. But just giving you examples, hey, if we only have 2 hours left and we have the ability to run our generator, we want to go ahead and kick that on and let that system start charging up. Our chassis battery is going to pretty well stay at a certain voltage, 12.8. If it drops down, that charging system is going to kick back in. You'll see it jump up to 13.4. If we're plugged into shore power, it's going to let us know we're plugged in, and it will show a charging for that system. If we are inverting, it's going to let us know, hey, we're inverting on here. Also, kind of like our Magnum system up there. So generator, it's going to give you the same settings right there. If we hit the settings button up at the top of that, we now have access to our auto gen start setup system. So if we want to initiate our AGS, we have to go back in, hold that button down for 3 seconds. Now our system is initiated. We go back into settings. We can do the easy setup, which is the non-technical version of this, and it will walk you through with much ease on your system. It's going to ask you some questions. When would you like your generator to start? When the house batteries are low and I need to charge it. When the climate control system needs power. So that's our two options. Either our batteries are low, or our AC system says, hey, it's too hot in here, I want to kick on. So that's basically your battery charging, and your HVAC system is what it's asking for. So we can choose, if we don't want our HVAC system to initiate, we just turn it off. Generally, you're going to keep your charge system on if you want to activate this system. Next is going to be when we want our generator system to kick on. So 20% would be your minimum, 60% is the recommended, and 90% is your maximum. So you choose here which one you want that system to initiate on. Our next option is, when do we want our system to stop at? Recommended is 100%. Yes, I want that system to shut off once my batteries have reached 100%. Next option is, what is the minimum amount of time that we want our generator to run? So that would be 10 minutes, we want 12, 14, whatever. It gives you the recommended amount. So even though it says minimum amount, your batteries aren't going to charge up in 10 minutes in most cases. So it's going to run more than that. And when it does, we want to decide the maximum amount of time that we want that to actually run. It gives you your recommended settings, once again, right here off to the side for you to choose from. Our next button is, do we want to enable quiet time? Quiet time can be set on here from 10 to 12 to 9 to whatever, okay? So we can go ahead and change those settings right here and initiate that quiet time. We can also initiate whether or not we want our quiet time to check prior to 9 p.m. if we want that system to check and say, hey, look, my batteries are low. They're going to be really low if I don't initiate and start charging the system before 9 o'clock. So it's a little smart system. It's saying, hey, I know in an hour my system is going to be in quiet mode, my batteries are going to be low. Let me kick on now and start charging those batteries up before that time comes around. So we can enable that by clicking that box right there. Once you're satisfied with everything, you hit finish, and now your easy setup is completed. If we want to do a manual setup and we're familiar with all that, we can go into this one, and it's going to be all the same information right here, just not in a more explanatory format that easy setup is. So that wraps up everything on our electrical screen. We'll go to our thermostat screen right here. We already talked about our floor heat controls. We can go ahead and decide what level we want them on. Remember, we got to turn them off or turn them on. They'll be in standby for a second before they initiate. Here we have our rear and front ACs. Both of them are going to work the exact same. Okay, so I'm only going to go over one. You just need to decide which one you want to activate at that time. If we want to sync our zones, we want both of our ACs to be on the same settings. Just click sync zones right there. They'll automatically sync up. Whatever settings you have on your rear, your front will follow. We can go into aqua hot settings right here. It's going to bring you back to that same screen that we talked about earlier. And then, of course, we have our adjustment for our set temperature right there. If we want to initiate AC, we want to go ahead and click AC. Okay, so now our HVAC system is going to be cooling out of the rooftop airs. If we want our fan on auto, which means that fan's going to shut off and on whenever our compressor is off and on, then we do that. If we want the fan running all the time, we have low and high speeds to choose from, and that fan will run all the time regardless if that compressor is cooling the air or not. We're also going to have our heat pump option. Our heat pump is on our rooftop AC, so basically it's going to reverse the compressor and it's going to start spitting out warm air out of that rooftop air vent. We're only going to have the auto fan option for our heat pump, and this is only to knock the chill out of your unit. If it is really cold in here, anything below 55 degrees or below, you want to probably turn on that aqua hot system and start heating your unit through that furnace, because it is not going to keep up with really cold temperatures. It's just to go ahead and knock the chill out of your system. So that next option is going to be our furnace option. Our furnace is going to pull off of that aqua hot system. So in order for it to initiate, we need to have either our electric or diesel initiated for our system. So we would click electric or heat to do that, kick on our furnace. We would have our set temperature hiked up to whatever we want, and that's going to go ahead and initiate that aqua cool system to be able to get everything rolling on there. Now it does take a little bit for that system kind of get going and get that boiler fluid heated up before that system is going to start heating up the air in your unit. So be a little patient or be prepared whenever you kick it on. You will start to smell a little bit of fumes and stuff if you haven't kicked it on in a while for that interior heat. So just keep in mind your CO alarm and everything else might go off. So it's a good idea to run this before you actually need it in that winter time. If we leave our electric and diesel on all the time for our aqua hot system, basically it'll be prepped and ready to go. That way when we initiate our furnace or our water heater, anything like that, it will go ahead and kick on right away and start heating that system right off the bat. Our quiet mode for our aqua hot system is basically going to reduce the load of that system, so it's not going to work quite as efficiently and effectively as it would in regular mode. So it does that so that system will quiet down and not make as much noise at night. If you're a light sleeper, you can put it on quiet mode, but in most cases it's not as loud as you think, but some customers prefer to have that on so it doesn't wake them up in the middle of the night when it's running. That's perfectly fine. So one thing I want to point out with our furnace and stuff, all that air is going to be coming out of these small ducts and vents throughout the lower part of our unit. We can see some under our counters, stuff like that. That's where that hot air is going to be coming out. Our heat pump air is going to be coming out of our ducts up top. One thing that I'll mention too is that we'll notice some of these ducts don't have any screens on them, and some of them do. So what's that mean? These are our intakes. So no air is going to be coming out of here that's going to be sucking into our AC unit. So I want to make sure we pull these down and clean these filters on a fairly regular basis. That way we're not restricting airflow to our AC. So everything on the driver's side is generally going to be intake, and we need to make sure that those filters get cleaned properly. The passenger side ducts, those are going to be all of your outputs where you're going to either feel that heat pump, slightly warm air, or your air conditioned air coming out of those vents right there. This is our slide out screen, ignition running. This will turn green, and then park brakes initiated, that's green. If anything's red, then we can't run our slide outs out. Run them out, extend and retract. If we want to override and operate our front slides from right here, we would have to go through this override up there at the top right corner, hit continue, and then we can go ahead and run those front 2 slides. You do that if your battery's dead or something on that key fob. The reason they put the warning on here is so they can make sure they're telling you, hey, make sure your seats are moved up and all that stuff before you tear anything up. Our last screen is going to be our settings screen over here. We have our galley fan, mid-bath fan, rear fan, all adjustable from right here. We're going to see some of the same features that we saw on our front screens. We can also control our TV from there and our ceiling fan that we have here in our living room. We do have another settings screen up here up top right. We can change Celsius, Fahrenheit. Don't go into floor plan, leave that alone. We have our brightness of our screen. We can change our clock right here. We can do exterior keypad right here. We can change our PIN code, just like we talked about. Go to change PIN code, change it to whatever you want it to be rather than that standard factory setting that's on there. We have all our wireless switches. Now we can talk about our key fobs. Okay, so if our key fob battery goes dead, we have our driver's seat one, our passenger seat one, our TV lift. We have several of them on here, and your key fobs. If one goes dead, you come over here, you click that one, you hold both the buttons down on that, and then it will sync to whatever one that is that you connected to, okay? So battery's dead, bring it over here, click that button, hold both of your buttons down on your key fob, and then that will resync whatever component that is. Back to our settings menu, we have system updates. If you're hooked to your Wi-Fi, you can go ahead and search for any system updates on your unit. Do have that mobile app we talked about. The mirror app is not Bluetooth. If we want to upgrade that system, we go ahead and upgrade that box in the front. We hold our finger on that, and that will change it to the Eclipse system. Now we can go ahead and download that app, and we can get on here and we can control a lot of this stuff from our phone. Change it back, just hold it down for a second, and it goes back to mirror. Over here, diagnostics. This is all of your spider system right here. Once again, you're on the phone with a technician, all that kind of stuff. These are the screens that they're probably going to tell you to go to see what they are reading. And if you have knowledge about spider, well, have fun. The Tiffin version right here, this is like if you had software update, this tells you what version all of that stuff is in. It pretty much wraps up everything on our touchscreen. So moving on into our bedroom, we have more touch screens right here on the sides. We can control different components on each side. We have our bed that's on a slide out. We do have storage underneath here. Not much, but a little bit. We're also going to have our TV right here. If we open this up, we have our main panel where all of our coaxes come in for our cable, our satellite, so on and so forth. So outside, we saw a tripod. There's our tripod coax coming in. These are our satellite on the rooftop. We have that on our Traveler, all of our LMBs right there. Those would go to your receiver. If we just have a regular satellite, that would come from satellite right there to the receiver. And then we hook right here, this HDMI, into our receiver, and that would output to the TV. Right here, we do see a little HDMI port right here. If we are hooked, if we hooked a Fire Stick or something like that, we can plug that in right here rather than having to fight to find the HDMI on the back of there. We can plug it in here and have that Fire Stick hooked up going straight to the back of the TV. Over here, you have a USB port that goes to the back of the TV for any media, anything like that. You also have our Blu-ray player that is already routed to your TV as well. All right, moving into our bathroom. Self-explanatory, we got sinks, right? We're also going to have, what's that? Another touchscreen panel right there. We're also going to have our washer and dryer in here. We have access to the pipes and everything right there through that panel here. We have our safe system right here. And then we're going to have in this panel right here, more spider control stuff. We can see all that jumble of wires in there. Most people don't see that, don't want to see it. And I suggest you leave it alone unless you know what you're doing, okay? We can tighten that up. That closes that. I'm going to come over here, open that up. We're going to see our GFCIs and our resets for our floor heat, okay? So if our floor heat isn't working, we want to come over here and make sure we have green lights. If we don't, want to turn our floor heat off on our screen, then come over here and reset this. You are going to have two different functions for that. have your front and your rear, right? We're also going to have our GFCIs right here that protect some of your outdoor outlets, your kitchen outlets, your bathroom outlets, stuff like that. If they're not working, come over here and reset these GFCIs and see if that doesn't fix your problem. I have our air conditioner override right here. If something goes wrong with your touchscreen panel, you can go ahead and just click that on button. That AC system will kick on and go ahead and cool your unit. We also have our breaker panel above our toilet here. We can see all of our breakers all labeled as far as what they all control in that cabinet. Our shower over here has a shower miser, okay? So everything on that shower is gonna work the same except for the fact we have a shower miser. What a shower miser does is it allows you to recycle your water while your water heater is heating up the water. So what we do is we turn this knob until we get to the icon right here. We're going to recycle our water. It's pulling it from the fresh tank. It's passing through this little knob right here and it's putting it back into the fresh tank. Now we only use this if we are dry camping, we don't have a city water connection. So as that water is passing through, it's heating up. This is going to change from a blue to a white color. And once it does that, we know that our water is hot. We can go ahead and turn this to our shower head position right there. And as we can see, we got some water coming out of there. And that will begin to flow hot water out through our system. And we didn't waste any going into our gray tank because it was just recycling it into our fresh tank. Once again, as it says here, do not operate your shower miser if hooked to city water. That's because it will overflow your fresh tank by putting water in there, okay? So if you're hooked to a city water connection, use that shower like normal. If you are running off of water pump and don't have a gray tank dump, so on and so forth, use that shower miser so you can go ahead and salvage some of your water. All right, our toilet system. Our front toilet is a manual toilet. We saw that valve down at the bottom. In order to operate it, we go ahead, just hit that pedal and flush, okay? A couple things we need to know about our toilet system. We only put 4 things. We have our sewage. We have our sewage number 1, which is liquids, number 2, which is solids, our toilet paper, and then our chemicals, okay? We don't want to put anything else in that system. It's more likely to get clogged up in the valves and cause you a problem later on down the road. Now, if we're doing number 1, it's just liquids, that front toilet, hit that pedal, send it on down the drain. If we're doing number 1 on this one, we can go ahead and just hit that eco mode, and it would just go ahead and put a little bit of water in there and flush it. If we're doing number 2, solids, you want to fill your bowl about 3/4 to halfway on that front toilet, and you can do that by barely pushing that pedal down in there, and that'll fill that bowl up before we flush, because we want to make sure there's enough water in the bowl to help flush those solids down the drain and it doesn't clog it up. In this case, on this system, we hit that normal mode. That'll fill it up with enough water, send it on down the drain. When we are ready to store our unit, we want to hit that empty button right there. That's going to drain all the water out of this toilet on this one, and then we are ready to store, so you don't have water sitting in there getting stagnant. If your black tank ever reads full, you're going to get an indicator down here saying tank full, and you are not going to be able to use this toilet. Your mid toilet you can still use, but this toilet is going to automatically shut off once it reaches that full mark on your system. Under this cover, just some of your electronics for that system, a little vent pipe, so on and so forth. Pretty much explains everything as far as your toilets go. Once again, you only want to put number 1, number 2, toilet paper, and then your chemicals, or to put your chemicals in, just drop it down the hole. That water will dissolve it. I don't remember if I mentioned that's our ceiling fan up there. I talked about it a couple times, but there it is. Pretty much wraps up everything on our unit. If you got any questions, leave it down in the comments. We'll try to answer them for you. Thanks for watching.
Well, we hope you found that resourceful, but wait, there's more information on our Great American RV YouTube channel. This channel right here, find the playlist Hap's Helpful Hacks. We go over different products in this unit, and we'll take a deeper dive with more diagnostics, more information, as well as helpful tips when you're out camping. Tell your buddies, tell your friends, like, share, subscribe, do all those awesome things on YouTube, TikTok, wherever you found us, and keep watching here at Great American RV Superstores, where we bring the how-to you.